I literally don't want the vaccine. Is there anything wrong with
Then
that?
die. Please get sick of COVID and die then, if that's what you want to happen to you.
Yo, if you get COVID, let me know because I'll like pay
You
you
know,
to cough like in my
even
face.
if you have no effect, even if you get COVID and it has no effect on you, there's lots of evidence to show that you can get strokes down the line. You have no effect,
And you can get blood clots down the line from the vaccines.
No, you can't.
What's the
There's no
fucking
evidence to
difference?
suggest that.
Hey, Truff, go fuck yourself.
I love you too, baby.
Oh, fuck you.
Do you?
Fucking bad.
Are you gay too? Is that what's
I'm
going on here?
bisexual. Sorry, bro.
No, not you. This guy. This guy's really intense about it. You know, I can feel that growl. You know, in his voice.
What the fuck are you talking about?
You. Are you gay?
Let me text something to you real quick.
Are you DTF?
Let me text this real quick.
Dude, I hate this fucking world I live in, dude.
Boo-hoo, your life sucks.
Gotta love it. Only one there.
Nah,
I'm probably the only straight man left in the fucking world, dude. I should move to China. Fuck this shit, man. White,
I hate to tell you it.
China's the white supremacy capital of the world, dude.
We need to move to Russia where it's illegal to be gay.
I hate to tell you this, but there's a lot of bisexuals in fucking China too.
Dude, everyone in China looks like a fucking woman. Proves me wrong.
That's why we need to go to Russia.
True. The men there.
Oh, never mind. We'll go into Russia, man.
Who's coming?
Russia is one of the worst countries you could live in.
I don't care. It's illegal to be gay there.
Yo, I'll learn Russian. It only takes like
Besides, they got some
50 weeks to learn Russian, man, and I'm gone.
That's a long time to learn Russian.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's worth the time.
I will.
You go to Russia, become a double agent, come back to the U.S., and spy on the U.S., man.
Wait, that's not how a double agent works.
Or whatever the hell they call it. Fucking, I don't know. KGB agent.
You know what the most sickening thing is in the world? Like, I don't support gay people at all, but I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and
Why don't you support gay people?
I'm not gonna sit here and slander them. Like, I don't support gay people at all, but I mean,
Yo, I got saved, so I have the right to judge y'all people.
Why don't you support
to be clear, I wouldn't even.
Dude, it looks like it's like a human version of BoJack, the main character almost.
It's so good. It's just like a fucking cartoon sitcom, but one of the originals, like, is one of the originals with like The Simpsons and South Park.
Never heard of it. It's surprising.
Really? How South Park?
I'm 14.
I've heard of it.
Oh, you're 14. Oh, I mean, and I'm not trying to talk down to you. I thought you maybe were like 20 or 21 or something. Well, if you like any like current cartoon, do you like Bob's Burgers or like?
Yeah, I watch Family Guy and all that shit. I watch
if you like Family Guy, you'll like King of the Hill. King of the Hill's way better than Family Guy. Like Family Guy's funny, and you'd love King of the Hill. It's like,
is it animated or is it like?
Yeah, it's animated. Yeah, I think it's on. I don't know. It's on something. I think it's on Hulu. I'm a dork, so I actually own the entire box set on DVD. But it's good. I'd give it a watch. I'm a dork, so I actually own the entire box set on DVD. But if you're into that kind of like TV, if you're not, then probably don't. But if you like watching Family Guy, put it on the background. It's fucking funny.
Okay.
Hours now.
Hey Val, what do you think about this guy?
Like normally it used to be cut off after every half an hour, and I thought that was how he is. But this is really good.
Did you quit Roblox, Brandon? Sorry.
No, it's okay. Shame on you. Like no one gives a shit for that.
Sorry, Corpy Cat.
What do you mean? What do you mean quit?
Like we never played together. I play Roblox like every day, and you never play with me.
Yeah, because you never like DM'd me to play with you.
I did so many times, and you would never do it.
And I used to play. I think I played Roblox for like a while, and then I stopped playing it.
Shut up, idiot.
No, I
don't talk to Brandon like
cut off
that.
all games though.
don't know. And then he's like, are you? But I want to get your answer. I was like, dude, my answer is literally I don't know. What part of that should I get? What's going on, whoever joined? Yeah, this is, and not to mention, he was big on the politics, and you know how people are with politics, pushing towards trying to talk about it. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to talk about it. And then he's like, but what about this? And then he says something that it's like, you gotta say, and then he baits me. Like,
Yeah.
fuck. That was the whole past like hour and a half just talking politics. Me just explaining the same shit.
Influences of things, environmental.
Huh?
Something in the environment's, triggering that,
Yeah, I know. But if you're in the chill chat, then I want to chill. I don't want to talk about politics. If I want to talk about politics, I'd be in the politics, obviously.
Yeah, I'm not much for politics.
Run that, man. How you been lately, Blade? Been a minute.
It's alright, I've just been working. Yeah, that's about it. I do like a flea market type business.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I've got a question for you. Can you take out an 8-man foot patrol thing?
I'm sorry, what? Oh, I'm
And that's not AI, that's N.
Dropped him.
I never go for a reroll. I go 3-round burst, single shot. Better recall.
No, this thing
I'll tell you right now,
no
I am not a fully auto man. I always
I'm sorry, what?
Single shot. I'll never single.
Oh no, this is single fire. That was semi-automatic.
Oh, quick round burst.
No, I was just trying to get sighted on him and keep him from firing at me, keep him suppressed, Because it's not as easy to
I
get
just have to
someone
say,
if you're
what
being
you
shot
have said is extremely offensive. What you have said is extremely offensive.
What, suppressive fire?
I'm kidding.
Suppressive fire? Hey, I'm gonna trigger you more.
That is
Suppressive fire while providing squad support with grenades.
Oh.
One sec, I got a bitch with me.
Just reef.
Dropped him. Ooh, boy had an SVD with a Validate. I got more boys with me. They don't stop coming. They don't stop. Well, they learn their lesson.
I was saying that it's terrible that they tend to.
They don't stop coming.
People. What the fuck?
I have no idea.
He's an anti-Semite and he was cutting me off. So anyway, as I was.
No, you were
saying,
talking over me, dude. But
it's
okay,
not
go ahead.
just the fact that they're using human shields. They also put their military targets surrounding civilians or amongst civilian hotspots. Areas.
I mean, human shield metaphorically, like not like literally holding them in front of them.
Oh, they do
like
that
a
as
gun. Well, I mean,
Well,
I'm sure there are some cases
what's
of
actually
that.
funny is this is. You know what actually is funny is this is the
I
exact
just meant,
same.
like, there's a recent case where there was a cave system, and the entrance to the cave was right next to a fucking kindergarten and school and a mosque by about 200 meters. It's not necessarily human shields, but it's in that area, so it makes sense.
I mean,
Yeah, but Mike,
so
wouldn't you say it's the same?
The general sort of way is that they will have their bases of operations in close proximity to civilian centers, and that's unfortunate.
Wouldn't you say they're caught?
Gaza Strip is a small amount of land that like 2 million people.
I mean, that is also
exactly.
something to consider.
It's I just wanted to quickly say two quick points, Mike. Hold on. One is this is literally what the apartheid. Hold on. This is literally what the apartheid government said to justify the Sharpeville massacre, they said that it was that they were using them as human shields, and that's why they killed all those children.
Oh, the anti-Semites speaking, I forgot.
So yeah, and the other thing is, like somebody else who pointed out, Gaza is a very populated place, and you are literally bombing a tenement block because you think like 3 Hamas guys lived there, and then you say, oh, they use all these people as human shields to justify murdering.
That's why the
civilians.
IDF use all precautionary means to avoid civcas.
Hey, Mike Hayden, have you come to answer my questions from yesterday?
What questions from yesterday?
Okay, maybe you didn't hear them.
You know, I'm not gonna say you should do it, but I'm just gonna say, I think Mike. I'm gonna say I think Mike would be rather upset if I left a leaflet in his postbox while he was sleeping. If somebody were to leave a leaflet in Mike's postbox while he was sleeping 2 hours before firebombing his house, I'm not so sure Mike would be very
destroying your
sympathetic to that
house and
person.
everything,
Yeah.
every single one of your possessions in it, your entire life.
With him in it, like that's what he's
Would the
defending
sub be
here. Like,
issued to
Okay,
shake
let's
the house?
Mike Hayden.
That's
Let's
also very
please.
effective.
I want to ask a question.
But Gazi's
One-
gonna ask me a question before. What was it, Gazi?
Yo, how do you
Well, I can't
feel
hear you.
about the IDF's claim of them demolishing the Associated Press's building when there's no knowledge of Hamas being around the area whatsoever,
So
or there
it's one
being
of
an
two things.
underground facility?
It was one of two things. It's happened before in 2009. The IDF were targeting a Hamas building, and they phone call as part of their warnings that they do. They're meant to. It's tragic though that they're meant to phone call the surrounding civilian home right next door to the compound. They accidentally call the place they're targeting, and they strike the civilian home. What happened in 2009? So it could be that a mistake in targeting. That they're deliberately targeting this building, but they think it's Hamas and not AP. And then they provided a phone call to the civilian place they're thinking. So a genuine mistake could be. Or it could be the case that through numerous intelligence means that aren't public, human, SIGINT, and so forth, that Hamas actually was using part of the building as for whatever it was they were suggesting, which makes it a lawful target, thankfully, because again, the precautionary measure of phone calling, mass text messaging, no civilians were killed, right? Everyone evacuated as is, and they struck the building. But that would be a lawful target. If Hamas, secret or not, is using part of that building, then it's a lawful target.
Okay, but I don't know, man. Things aren't adding up. They're taking out.
Yeah, you said if there's evidence, but there is no evidence.
If Hamas is using
there's
it
no evidence that
secretly,
the
then
building
it's a
was
lawful
being used.
target.
For the
There's
record,
no
the
evidence.
president
There's
of
no evidence.
AP did deny that it had any weapons.
Yeah, I
or
don't know
Hamas
why
weapons.
AP would have any.
And there's also no evidence.
AP would know
Hayden,
either.
you're gonna
Pay
love
attention.
Right, yeah. You're saying if there was evidence to justify their action, then they
I
can
don't know. I was involved
justify.
in the targeting.
But
so-
there is no evidence. But there is no evidence,
Not
and
publicly
that's the question
available.
that they're asking.
Here, listen,
They're asking the
I-
president of the Associated Press
Yeah.
and international
If
media is
Hamas was
asking
using
for
it
this evidence.
secretly, then he wouldn't know. Pay attention.
Hang on, you're not hearing what I'm saying. I'm saying the president of the Associated Press is asking for this evidence publicly, and no such
Well, they
evidence has
should
been
declassify
shared
it.
with
I
him.
think they should, yeah.
So if how about if they don't want to
After the
declassify
building's
it?
already been demolished,
Right, and they could
How
probably
about if they
collect
don't
release that
unclassified summary.
information, or at least some of it,
Listen, I
relating particularly to the operations within the building that contained, if I'm not mistaken, like offices of news
and residential
organizations like the
units for
Associated Press and
family
Al
members and stuff like
Jazeera,
that.
and residential units,
Right.
apartments,
Yes, this
like
would be a lawful
residential
target under
apartments, like
international law, which is not up to dispute. If Hamas was
If
also
there's
using
evidence, which there is no
if-
evidence, you haven't seen the evidence.
Child, neither have
So
you.
there's no reason for you to claim it's a
Nor
law.
has
So that
anyone
means
else, mind you. Nobody else.
So that means that, as far as we know, this is not a lawful
As far
target.
as we know,
In fact,
it's one
also
of
they
two
gave an
things,
hour.
children.
They gave an hour notice.
Two
That's
things,
enough time
Georgian,
for
that you
any
said
militants
twice or
to
3 times
move
now.
the
There's only
majority of
two
their.
options here.
Well, yeah,
was
no,
a
that's the other
mistake,
argument
they were
against
targeting
fire
where they were
bombing
building
is
the next
that
door,
is that especially when
providing the
you
warning that they
roof
do.
knock like you're
Or
saying, it
two,
sort of
they were
gives
deliberately
the
targeting
terrorists
you,
or
knowing it
targets,
was
as you're
a
saying,
twice the
ample
Muzzies
time to move out of the
or the other
location that they're
option.
talking about,
Whoa!
which
The
makes
other
it sort of an
Yeah.
inefficient
Muzzies.
and
Pennyma, let me make
ineffective
an
method
argument. Let me
of
make an
combating
You know what? You
terrorism.
can't move out within an hour
The
all
other
of the
option.
equipment and stuff that you
The
need
other
to run a
Is
news
it they deliberately
headquarters.
Hey
targeting
guys,
buildings?
please, one at a time, one at a
This
time.
is white noise.
Mike,
It's white.
wait,
This
wait,
is white
stop.
noise.
This
This
is
is
why
white.
Muslims
Everyone,
largely
everyone
participate in
is
this
speaking
Guys,
over
stop. I'm
conversation.
gonna
everyone.
mute people.
Everyone's speaking over everyone.
Or the other
So
option.
I'm gonna have to mute people.
nobody can hear what anyone
Or
is
the other
saying because
option.
everyone is speaking over everyone. So I
Pretty much, just pause for a
So
second.
the other
just
option.
everyone
Hello, I'm still speaking.
pause for 1 sec.
Richie,
Pause.
I'll just mute all of you. How
Okay,
about
Pennyma,
that?
One person.
Mike, you're just repeating the
Come
same.
on. One
Please.
person
We've
at a
heard that
time.
point, mate.
One person at a time. One person at a
Yeah.
time.
So
I have a question.
I'll just mute you. Fuck you.
Oh my god.
One of
No,
those two
hold
options.
on.
Either it was a mistake or targeting the next
No,
building
calm
over.
down. No, this is a
Still
question
providing
which
that
is
warning.
is a genuine
They
question.
identify the building they're after, but it's the wrong
No,
building.
Okay,
no,
Or
hold
it's a
on.
mistake.
Let's do Richie, then
Thinking
you,
that
Tony,
it's
and we can just sort of move down the list, I think,
everyone can jump in.
in the channel,
Everyone can jump
please.
in.
Again,
But
reference the
this is a question.
2009 case, right?
Who like speak? Who feels they're more informed than everyone on Israel-Palestine conflict?
I'm more informed than everyone on here on international law and targeting operations.
Okay. So here's the question for the most informed person. I would like to hear a response. I personally believe that Hamas.
Mike, check your feelings.
Hold on. I haven't asked the question yet. But I want to hear from the most informed person, or the person that believes they're the most informed person. I want to hear whenever Hamas was created.
Mike, check your DMs.
Fucking hell, give me a chance. I personally believed that was a deliberate split from the Fatah movement in order to present the Fatah movement as sellouts, as milquetoast, as kind of mediocrities, and they wanted like a hardline element. And I thought that Hamas was deliberately created by the Israeli Shin Bet, or the Israeli government, or the intelligence agencies within Israel, in order to split the Palestinian movement. And tell me, is that a correct analysis of the foundation?
Why would you believe that?
Hamas?
The first question.
It seems like the kind of thing they
The
do.
first question
quite
is why
frankly.
would you believe that without any evidence?
It's not out of character for them to do stuff like that.
Bias, anti-Semite. Yes,
so
I'm asking
plausible.
you, Richie. Richie, I'm
Yeah?
asking you. Why would you believe this conspiracy theory without any evidence?
Because I've saw it over.
There is evidence.
Because I've saw that happen in where I live in the north of Ireland. Whenever there was like bombings and killings,
That's not evidence.
and I saw it deliberately. Like when I saw like movements that have been co-opted.
That's a logic, but not evidence for this particular case. Right?
No. And I don't have evidence for that particular case, but I've
That's
saw.
what I'm asking you. So why would you believe it?
It's in character. You've seen similar things happen, so it's plausible.
I've saw similar examples happen in front of my face in my own country with people I know that have been sold out. So I just think it's very reasonable to suggest that these things could happen in other places. Why are you
Yeah, but that
challenging me?
doesn't mean you should believe it happens to here, right?
I
bank.
He's even saying, like, do you guys know if it happened or not? He's not even saying it. Mike, he's
for running pedophilia rings.
Get real, man. Get real.
Can you?
So wait, guys, hang on. So apparently the most knowledgeable person doesn't even know the basics.
First of all, Israel actually used to fund Hamas heavily during the the
Say
end
if
of
there was
the
a bank,
80s.
they got busted for deliberately hiding it and shifting money along to pedophile sex rings, right?
What?
What are you
What?
talking? This is
And this
nonsense.
is
You're
proven
just
false by
uttering
pictures and
nonsense
all
now.
that
Stick on
kind of shit,
topic.
Mike,
right?
Mike,
On topic.
stop
Does
with the
that mean
nonsense.
Get
we
on
then
topic.
assume every
Wait,
single
what?
bank in the world, including local banks,
You're
also
totally
are
changing
involved
the
in such a
subject.
thing
You're changing the
deliberately?
fucking
No,
subject.
I think he's doing a
Old British
rhetorical
people try
technique here.
I don't
fight
see
that
the
and then
relevant.
back to the
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
fucking
post in the
No,
Israel
no,
Palestine
just
No,
chat.
be
no.
quiet. It's a question
What
I'm
for
I think
gonna.
he's doing is trying to conflate it with
No,
other
it's a course in
conspiracy,
logic.
No.
It's a course in
What?
Gish
logic.
galloping, you might
We don't
say?
want your course in
Wait, you
logic
might say
right now.
like
So
actually gish
I'm
galloping, like what
asking
everyone
him why
else
he
can
believes a
accuses
conspiracy theory
everyone
when he
else of doing on
concedes there's
this
no
server, but
evidence
might
for the
actually
conspiracy
no,
does,
there
and
is
he's
theory.
evidence.
called out for
There
it.
is evidence for it. I'm going to post in the Israel Palestine channel a
Right.
Wall Street Journal article that goes
Does that
into
cite
express
evidence?
detail.
Right.
So
Well,
it has admissions from members of the Israeli
that
government
they set up
who
Hamas.
regret their early support of
Yeah.
Hamas
So it
in order
identifies
to
these people,
contrast.
does it?
to
Yes,
exacerbate
yes.
the tensions to
So
then
people
give
So
claiming a
there it
justification
is.
thing
The
makes it
article
for
is
true.
more aggressive action.
the
So
article from the Wall Street
Chad,
Journal.
according to Chad's infinite fucking wisdom, someone claiming a thing makes it true.
No, multiple former
No.
members
Why would
and
former
current members
members of the
of the
CIA
Israeli
See,
claiming
that's
government.
they had
see,
the
that's
They're
American
not.
government
They're
that's
not members of the CIA.
you see,
carrying
that's what I heard. That's what I
aliens, the
heard.
existence of
And
aliens? There
so
are
that's what I
more
heard.
people in the
And everyone
CIA who
who's
used to
trying to
work in the
fucking
CIA.
deal, like everyone who's trying to speak up for me and try and derail this conversation into something fucking different.
It's
I don't know.
not that many people. I'm
I
just
don't.
saying.
I don't know if you've got an agenda or what the fuck's going on, but I just want this question answered, and I do. I want you to stick on topic and go, "Oh, he's comparing apples and oranges, and he's fucking doing this." No, I'm not. I'm trying to fucking work out what the fuck's going on in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which is what this discourse.
That's not what I was saying, by
This
the
is
way.
So we'll let Mike Hayden respond.
this is entirely what this fucking Discord and this part of this Discord is all about. Is working out what the fuck's going on. And I'm saying, I'm from a place where there was fucking. I grew up like I'm in my early 40s. I'm 42, and I grew up with fucking friends of mine being killed, fucking bombs going off every other day, soldiers walking around holding guns to fucking my face as a fucking child.
All right, Richie, we're gonna have to wrap it up. Like, please stick to the topic, okay? So I understand that that's
Right,
like
calm
trying to
down,
come to the truth.
calm down, fucking hell. I'm just trying to give a bit of background and explain my position. I just want to know how Hamas has been created. I believe, or what I've read, or what I've learned to believe, or at least assumed to be the case, that they were deliberately set up by the intelligence agencies of Shin Bet or the
Well, that's
United
not. Well, that's not. So Hamas is an organic organization, but it was supported during its inception as an attractive alternative to Fatah because of the popularity of
Do you not think
the
that was
Fatah
deliberately
movement
set up to
early on.
split the movement?
They were not deliberately. They were not. It's an organic movement. It's an organic organization. It was supported, and that's what the Wall Street Journal article that I posted in Israel and Palestine. We're gonna unmute my cat now so he can tell us why we're wrong. Go ahead, Bob.
I think it's
Take it away.
curious that the Muzzies are able to moderate this chat.
Oh my god, Mike.
Given
Even the Muzzies is sort of
given
Mike.
given the clear
It's the people
bias
who are
involved,
admins and moderators who can moderate.
given
While you
moderators
how
can't
server
moderate
works.
their own debates that they're participating in. So
I'm quite curious.
The
Though I
dangerous
will
thing
say
is
there's only one mod I know to be immune from the effect, and that would be Mo. So if Mo's online, could you get him to moderate because he's able to control?
And the dangerous
that.
thing,
Now,
the dangerous
So
the
far,
Wall Street
nothing
Journal
has seemed
claiming
too
he
over
offers
the
no
top.
evidence, of course, typical. It's a piece written back in 2009. Very interesting. Since it's not accepted as a matter of history since we're living in 2021, and this article has no evidence for it, it's not accepted. 2, get to the further logic behind the reference. some people who are in the CIA claim the American government is hiding the existence of aliens at Area 51. Does that make it true because they said so and they're identified? No, it doesn't. Someone saying a thing isn't evidence. Now, I would like to see if you to present in this article from 2009 in the Wall Street Journal the actual evidence that is presented that the Israelis' intelligence services actually create Hamas outright as a matter of plan, per the conspiracy theory that was advocated and pushed by Mr. Ritchie. Yes? Ritchie was saying
so I've
that
already explained.
Shinbad, whatever the fuck, invented Hamas
You've asked like
through
3 questions.
domination
I've already
and control
said.
of the region or something. I would like to see this evidence in this article.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So I've already clarified, firstly, that Hamas is an organic organization, that it wasn't spawned or created by Israel. Rather, it was supported by Israel as an attractive option to
That's the
compete with
claim that has
Fatah.
no evidence.
Particularly because of the popularity of Yasser Arafat. Now, you say that there isn't evidence. If we have multiple former cabinet members and former
People
members
saying
who
a
dealt
thing
with
doesn't make
and
it true.
stop,
Come on, Mike.
You're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to. If
I'm
what you're
raising my
asking,
hand, by the way.
the sort of evidence that you're asking for would be impossible to have, short of it being personally released by the Israeli government in the form of declassified documents or in the form of documents pertaining to the sorts of support that they have, maybe internal communication about the plan to offer support. But in terms of support that they offered publicly, they offered some public support as well. That's just a matter of fact. They, at least in the inception or early days, in order to compete with Fatah. The other evidence you're asking for, Israel has never released that sort of evidence in all of its history. We're not going to get it.
Well, so it's an unfalsifiable claim. Wonderful.
I'm from Israel, and that's pretty much true. So.
Yep. Why would
Yeah.
why would I believe so?
Because the cabinet members from the government said it.
When former CIA people say they're hiding the existence of aliens at Area 51, I've got no reason to believe them until there's like over 40 of them. I won't.
You're missing. No. Please,
because they don't offer any evidence for it. So I have no reason to believe in the conspiracy.
You're missing 2 points. One, they've publicly supported Hamas, right? In terms of offering
Not
them.
per Richie's claim.
No. There's a difference between what we're asking for. If we're asking for the support that they gave publicly, if they're asking for the support that they gave publicly, we have access and record to it. If you're asking for there being a motive behind this in order to undermine Fatah, then we're not going to get evidence for that. Short of
Richie's claim, not your
yeah,
claim.
we're not gonna get that evidence unless
That's
they
why I'm
release
asking
their
Richie
public.
and not you for his claim.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Well,
unmute
Richie's
Richie
muted
because he
right
was
now.
muted, and then he can maybe respond. He doesn't. He's just asking a question. I don't think he has any evidence.
Yeah, no.
asked a question to me,
Somebody
I
took
asked it
on.
back to him.
I would
As
like
a
a
matter of
chance to
logic.
speak. At
Someone
some point.
decided that I shouldn't have a say. I don't know why, but I might have said something to offend someone. It wasn't my intention. It was more just inquisitive and trying to work stuff out. But whoever did it can explain why they did it if they want. If they don't, who cares?
I mean, I think it was to, I guess, cut down on back and forth people talking over each other, but that's just my guess.
Well, I was the only one, but
I don't know.
You're also putting forth this notion that
okay.
that Shinbad, whatever the fuck, secretly created Hamas.
Yeah, that was what I heard, and that's what it sounds plausible, but that was more a question than assertion. I get muted because of my question. Really?
Okay, so fair enough. So you don't fully believe it yourself.
Okay. Can I say something? It seems much more plausible that an organic movement that seemed appealing to the status quo of Palestinian leadership was emerging, and that Israeli intelligence or state actors would try to support that as opposed to what they're currently dealing with. And now, like, I mean, it wouldn't be out of the realm, like, if we were to draw like a connection between Israeli intelligence and like something like the CIA, like it wouldn't seem so out of bounds to say that like you would sort of kind of like Hamas so out of bounds to giving you justification to continue your aggressive campaign.
But you see, even the deeper
Against the Palestinians.
Whenever you strip of, when you go deeper down that, quote unquote, that rabbit hole, and you start to understand.
But don't say that they fucking created it, because the sentiment clearly would have been there to begin with because of how Israel has treated the Palestinians.
But
It's just
even go beyond that. Like, what was the first state to recognize?
The problem.
Does anyone know what was the first?
Hold on.
Who first recognized
the problem? Hold on.
Who first recognized
the
Israel
problem?
in the states?
The problem going down this rabbit hole of just asking questions like that is it gets you forever in a rut. So
not really.
It does. So I'll make the argument.
No,
so by asking the questions,
Which
articulated by was it Ghazi? No, EMB. I don't know. Someone. I not you, Richard. Was other dude that was just.
I'm sorry. What do you think?
Who would seek to benefit? All that stuff that only gets you so far, and you can ask it about anything and arrive at all sorts of fucked up conclusions about anything. So,
I believe
the Mulvaney, for example.
Okay, hold on.
Who's down evidence all confirms that it was the.
I believe it's important to understand who was the first.
The faces of the people, exactly. All the evidence is there.
In 1947 and 48,
what did this do?
Tried to pretend it was a new state.
This created a massive international response and pressure to Russia, right?
Who
would seek to benefit from that? All the Americans, right?
Who was the first state to recognize it?
By this line of questioning,
are you saying my connection with the CIA is what you were referencing to? I'm sorry, I just wanted
that the CIA poisoned Mulvaney to then try and stir the pot against Russia. Well, sure, it's plausible.
I mean, not out of the question. The CIA is fucking
but there's no evidence
scummy as
to
fuck.
believe.
We know that.
It makes
but there's
sense
no evidence.
Logically, well, there's clearly a reason for the Americans to associate against Russia, but there's no evidence. So why don't I believe this to be the case? That the Americans actually poisoned Mulvaney and not the fucking Ruskies? Because there's no fucking evidence for it. Simple as that. So you can ask yourself anything about anything and arrive at all sorts of fucked up conclusions.
I agree, and it was honestly not great of me to necessarily engage with that sort of idea, but I mean, it's possible, but improbable. But I wouldn't.
It's possible that the FBI bust down your door and put a bullet in your skull. It's in the realm of possibility.
Hold on. I can't read this full Wall Street Journal article that they left that the admin who was in here before.
It doesn't push any evidence.
I mean, I can't see the whole thing. I was hoping to read it, but if they're actually
put it into archive, the Wayback Machine.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know if that's
I'll see if I can do that. I wouldn't be surprised if certain intelligence agencies would support a certain movement in a country that they have an active interest in, I guess, well, in the Israelis' case, sort of not exactly attacking, but invading, exterminating.
What? They're sending billions of dollars per year in humanitarian aid to Palestine and economic relief. Let's think very
the Israeli government is?
Yeah.
Okay, then why do they have such disparate reactions between like what the IDF does and what the what the funding from the government does. Like
what? The IDF
because they
doesn't
they
try
keep.
to exterminate fucking Palestinians, my dude.
I'm not saying they're going out there and lining them up. I'm saying that like they
Hamas try to avoid civilian
pretty much
casualties as much as
will
possible.
seize property of Palestinian
That's not an
citizens. They will
extermination.
have settlements.
That was
But
in a
you're kind of
matter.
squeezing them
That
in,
was in
and
a
they don't,
matter of
and they don't
court at the
have.
Supreme Court, and Hamas, which that Supreme Court ruling probably would have sided for them, but now it's in like indefinite suspension because of conflicts, right? So to break out. So Hamas, the terrorist organization, illegally occupies Palestine. They like out
Okay.
of the rockets they've sent all those war crimes against Israel. Around 350 of them didn't make the jump into Israel and destroyed so many fucking Palestinians because they
Correction,
rain.
420 exactly.
Yeah, something like that. And they just poofed and just farted and landed too short and killed Palestinians, right? The Palestinians themselves need to rise up and systematically murder all of Hamas. They're the problem.
No.
They have stalled
I
the judicial process for those Palestinians with the matter of evictions, which most likely would have sided with them.
Okay. When was the last time Israel? Like, I'm not actually asking this. I'm not doing this rhetorically.
Yeah.
When was the last time Israel asked went to the table for a ceasefire? Like, was willing to have a ceasefire under like
that rings
just
a distant bell of I think the mid 2000s. They tried working on something when they did the disengagement 2005 out of Gaza.
Okay, well, it feels like a ceasefire is in order. Feels like it shouldn't be 15, like, it shouldn't be this long.
Do you acknowledge that the current state of affairs, the current outbreak of violence, is solely because of Hamas?
I wouldn't say solely.
Who launched
No. That is a shitty fucking question because it's been going back and forth for so long.
Nope. I asked you for the exact current outbreak. Who started it?
The exact current one?
The past week.
This past week, let me see. There were protests in Palestine. There were protests in Palestine, and they were cracked down by Israel.
No.
Yeah.
Nope. Some of the fucking protesters
educate me, please.
Started throwing rocks and shit at police. So police chased.
Okay, that happens in protests.
So the people get chased into a fucking mosque. Naughty. The cops then try to bring them fucking out. Some people, yes, do get injured. It fucking sucks. But does that mean you start launching over 2,000 war crimes against Israel? No, it doesn't. Who escalated it?
2,000.
Each rocket was a war crime.
You mean 200 though?
No, 2,000 plus. Over 2,500.
Last I heard it was 200.
No, you're a bit fucking. You're about a week late. It's over 2,500.
Okay.
I'll link you from the IDF. 2,500 plus.
Well, okay. And I'm not saying that the Iron Dome is 100% effective because it's not, but goddamn, is it fucking cool. But Palestine doesn't have something like that when Israel decides to do airstrikes.
Israel only airstrikes Hamas targets per international law.
That is not true.
Yes, it is. They've never targeted a civilian deliberately, not once.
Okay. Okay. The main thing that I'm concerned about, like, I will lay down my ignorance. I'm not you probably know a lot more about this topic than I do. But what is the justification of the destruction of like that touted like the apartments and offices with news organizations. I don't see that
As I
being
said,
worthwhile enough and objective. I think just issuing.
As what I said in the first time I joined this VC today, right? About
Yeah.
an hour ago. There's two options. One, it was a deliberate strike, which is fine under international law, so long as the Israelis had intel that the building, either overtly or covertly by Hamas, was used for whatever military means they do. What I mean by that is, of course, AP news organizations didn't know about it, so then it suggests it was covert. So Hamas could have been using office spaces in that building, unbeknownst to those news organizations. That's very well plausible. I do believe the IDF should declassify that information, like the actual intel.
They
Burn
absolutely
sources and
should.
methods, if need be. Go for it. Or write up an unclassified descriptive summary. Or it was an accident. They were targeting the building only.
No, it was not an accident.
You don't stop.
They issued a warning.
That doesn't follow, because in 2009 and other cases, IDF doing the same thing. In this case, they phone call the warning to the building they were actually going to strike, and they hit the civilian compound that they were trying to warn. Right? That happened in 2009. The famous case, Al Sida family incident, I think it was.
That's also bad.
Yeah, but that shows that even just because they gave a warning, therefore if there was no mistake, in that case, they called up the fucking target and warned them. It was still a mistake.
Sure, but demolishing, aggressively attacking a tower of residential apartments.
On international law.
Hold on.
There is no building that is permanently immune under the laws of armed conflict. Yes,
please. And also news organizations, journalists.
EMB, do you grant the following? No building under international law is permanently immune from attack. Hospitals, schools lose their status if one of two things are met.
No.
The whole building is occupied combatants, or it's partly occupied combatants. And if it's partly, it's known as a dual-use facility. Then only that part of building structure or facility can be targeted, or the rest still maintains its protections.
I don't know whether or not that's actually under international law. But I don't agree with you attacking a hospital
because
hospital is a wing of it might have.
And its status is no longer that of a hospital.
It's entirely occupied, like controlled.
Yes, if it's controlled
by a hostile
hospital. If it's used by combatants and its function is no longer that of a hospital, it's just a building.
Yeah.
And if it's dual use, then only the parts used by combatants can be targeted. That requires very precise munition placement, obviously. But even if a mistake goes awry, it's still lawful, but they just try to be very precise with it, right? But that's...
Lawful and ethical are not the same thing.
Under international law is moral. It was debated specifically for this. Yes. You cannot find a single thing under the principles of the laws of armed conflict that you morally disagree with. Let's run through them. Do you think, morally, that if a Hitler, go for fucking Hitler, let's go for extremes, to highlight the principles.
Sure.
Hitler. And he's working with bomb makers and nuclear scientists all in one fucking room. And they're delivering their plans along the fucking highway. Think of some fucking highway, wherever the fuck you live. A big, fat fucking highway. They were driving along to get to this point to meet up with more people to further out their plans, right? Fantastic.
Right.
And he's about to embark on the Holocaust. Right? You've intercepted the intelligence that he's using. He's developing these scientists, getting along to engage this. You're flying.
I get where
you're
going.
flying a drone, an armed drone. Just mix up history and reality for a second. And you're flying a fucking drone down the highway. Now, you set up rules of engagement that, or the commander above you sets up the rules of engagement so that you can only do a strike at night. We can all agree, drive or be on public transport at night, that there's less people at night, yes?
Okay, yeah.
So the rules of engagement is not just international law, but also a matter of policy. Limit you to only striking at night because there's less people on the fucking highway, yeah? Fantastic.
Okay, where are you going with this?
Because I'm showing you both how rare, but more importantly, international law is based on moral questions. That's how they're formulated.
Sure.
Yeah. So I launch a strike. There's hardly any cars
on a night
engagement
highway
because of that.
Little traffic, just Hitler and his group of nuclear scientists.
Now you do weapons release. So the missile's flying along. You can't control it because it's launched. It's post-release. And then as they're coming along, another vehicle enters the picture, right? And it comes up alongside and it detonates. The missile detonates.
It hits, it detonates. It's a collateral.
Yeah.
It's collateral civilian damage.
And now it's switching it up another step. It's a static building, right? Oh no, let's get you do the highway, right? Two cars side by side.
No, you can go to a static building if
Okay,
you want to transition to that.
The principle's the exact same. Building, same scenario.
Not entirely.
And unbeknownst to you, right? A civilian enters the picture, right? You haven't done weapons release yet, but under international law, you are allowed to target the military target. In this case, it's Hitler and his boys and his scientists, right? That they're about to embark once they got shit sorted in the Holocaust, right? You know their plans, everything's, for the intelligence that you've collected on them. But there's a kid outside the building. Now, you as a combatant, right? The Air Force or whatever fuck nation it is, you try to mitigate as much as possible the chance of that kid getting injured or killed. You do a small diameter bomb on the building, you do a delayed fuse so the bomb impacts, buries itself a little bit, then detonates, producing shrapnel, stuff like this. All that stuff. You launch the bitch. Know him as a civilian, right? Little girl. Detonates bomb, she is either injured or killed, right? But you get your guys, right? In that scenario, it is morally the right thing to do to target Hitler and his boys while trying to mitigate as much as possible the chance of that civilian little girl getting injured or killed. Morally, you would agree with this, yes?
Yes, when conducting military strikes, it is ideal to minimize any chance
the
of
risk
civilian
to her life
casualties.
is outweighed by the hit on Hitler and his boys.
The necessity or the urgency to execute a strike on your target. Yes, I understand.
So it's morally based.
But when it comes to destroying potentially headquarters of news organizations in Palestine.
So in this case, the CIVCAS mitigation is a phone call. Yeah. Right? Cool. Assuming it was a deliberate strike, because we don't know yet. But assuming it was known that they knew in the targeting cycle.
There were several explosions. Like they were hitting it multiple times.
With the 2009 case, right?
They weren't waiting for confirmation to see where they hit. They just kept hitting.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine under international law because they already provided the warning, got people out. Now again, assuming they knew it was an AP and other news outlets building, right? So long as the building also still, according to intelligence, right or wrong in hindsight, that it had military targets inside, that is perfectly fine as international law to make sure they get out and they still destroy the building.
I mean, I won't put it past Hamas to hide in a building that has international press in it because they're a scummy organization.
Mm-hmm.
They
This is
suck.
insane.
But at the same time, it's like, dude, do you not see the damage that can be caused by destroying the headquarters of major international news organizations in Palestine?
Assuming for the sake of argument,
No,
this was a
please,
deliberate killing about it. They knew it was an AP building and so forth. So yes, they would have calculated the risk politically.
Israel doesn't really need to, but okay.
No, they do. The Americans even do it. When they do a strike, they have in the package, the baseball card, of course, like expected CFKs, high, low, and so forth, and all that. And the next one over will say political, right? As if is it expected to give you political blowback? We know from even leaked documents, and of course those declassified, that political considerations do take into effect.
My dude, how much equipment and documentation was for those news organizations was housed in that building?
Okay, dude, you're literally insane.
It does matter. Because it is a huge blow to international journalism in the West Bank.
Not really. I mean, let's be honest. All journalists
Yes,
these days.
yes.
No, because
What the fuck are you talking about? It isn't.
Because journalists do almost everything electronic. You can guarantee the vast majority of their shit's stored on the cloud.
Sure, but
Israel's actions are entirely unjustified. They cannot justify these actions. This is like
Yeah, they can.
Like
if
a
it's
kid.
a military
This is like
target,
a listen. This is like
target.
Okay, it's a military target. It's still unjustifiable.
That is justified.
Just because listen, just because it is a military target does not mean you can justify, and because it's justifiable under international law, it does not mean that it's necessarily justifiable from a moral standpoint.
Yes, on the international law, yes. If it's a military
yes, on the.
So in other words, the argument is, this makes you feel bad.
Wait a second. Are you guys saying Mike doesn't equal right?
Well, what's with the fucking anti-Semites and fucking anti-war scum?
Alright.
Okay, if you really think that opposition of Israel is anti-Semitic, then you are fucking insane.
Okay, can I please say just one thing real quick? Okay, so this building was hit. It was a building that housed residents. Shut up.
Why are you repeating
Sorry,
yourself?
I didn't mean to be aggressive. I didn't mean to be aggressive with you. I'm sorry. Okay, this building. Of course. Yeah. Okay. So it was hit. It had residents. Had news media.
They were all evacuated. Yes.
Yes, they were all evacuated. They were all given notice to evacuate. If there was a terrorist organization in there, they surely got the message. They probably got most, if not all, of their equipment and intel out of that fucking building. But you know what's not easy to move? All the fucking infrastructure that a news headquarter has. And you know what's very important? You know what's very important is having news. Okay. You know what's very important is having news.
They would have taken
having journalists on the ground.
Shut the fuck up and let him finish.
It's very important having journalists on the ground in an area where a state which has significantly more power than another is pressing their will.
So
well, first of all, Palestine doesn't even have a state, but the state of Israel is pressing their will onto the Palestinians.
You're repeating yourself.
You're stacking and repeating.
EMP. They would have done the following within the hour. Stop. Journalists, you would agree, like to be efficient, yes? So they're going to be using phones, tablets, and laptops, yes? EMB. Would journalists
infrastructure in
use?
Palestine.
Would they use phones? Would they use phones, tablets, and
They
laptops?
absolutely would, but that doesn't mean that there's one
major problem.
Do we also
on the
agree
media.
that they're
Problem
using
with
things
this
as basic as
ideology here.
USB? Would
There's
they
one
also be
major
using
problem.
USBs?
Feels like an
There's one
awful
major
lot.
problem with your ideology here, is that if you establish a place in Gaza where Israel is not allowed to strike, that is exactly where Hamas goes every time, and they use the people as meat shields, schools, hospitals, and churches.
We're doing that, yes.
It's a matter of policy. Hamas is a terror organization, and they are in control of Palestine.
But I still don't think striking hospitals and churches is
But again, under international law, no building is permanently immune from attack.
Nobody is disputing that it is a horror that. Hold on a second. Nobody is disputing that it is a horror that schools and hospitals. Hold on a second. Nobody is saying that it is not a horror that schools and hospitals and churches are being attacked. If
I would say
setting up
it wouldn't be a
launch
horror
sites.
if it was the building.
Yeah, well, rocket launch sites are getting set up in the playgrounds of schools, in the parking lots of hospitals to draw fire to induce civilian casualties, to get people like you to freak out. That's what Hamas does.
To perpetuate the conflict. Both
Yes,
sides
Hamas benefits from the conflict. If the conflict ends, Hamas is out. They have to keep the conflict going.
Yeah, but Israel also at the same time is generally pushing in the direction of just getting rid of the Palestinians.
Yeah, I agree they do have bad policies. Hamas helps justify this. That's the problem.
Yes, I agree. Hamas does help justify this, and it is a huge problem. But Hamas or Palestine don't really have the power to force Israel to the negotiating table. Israel holds all the cards.
Their actions then?
They're the ones.
Well, it was
What?
because they can't militarily keep toe to toe. Therefore, it's what, justified?
Sorry, what?
It sounds like you're almost justifying those actions, or just because they're not military toe to toe with Israel, therefore they have to resort to these fucking barbaric means.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Well, it very much seems like it.
Some people do make this argument that because I'm a big guy, I have to let the short guy punch me in the face at the bar, and I can't raise my arms because I'm stronger than. That would be wrong.
Well, the
Not
thing
even
is,
that,
you have to put how you respond to someone who can't actually threaten you.
They did. If it wasn't for the Iron Dome, hundreds of thousands of civilians would be killed by now.
Hundreds of thousands?
Oh yeah, 2,000 plus fucking missiles. Near 3,000, indiscriminate, all over the place. Oh yeah.
Between all of us, I honestly feel like
these aren't rocket bottles. They're actual proper missiles coming from Syria, Iran, China, and Russia.
See, personally, I think that the Iron Dome is half the problem. If Israel would have never installed the Iron Dome, and if a mortar comes in, they say, all right, we're sending a division of troops in, and we're going to raise the city. Now we have our excuse. The Iron Dome actually makes the problem worse for Israel because it creates this illusion that Israel's safe. Israel should have not put up the Iron Dome and just squashed Gaza. If Israel would take the tack that Russia did with Chechnya and said, kill them in the shit house, we don't give a fuck and we're not apologetic, then the world would back off. They'd be like, oh, you're a bad guy, we won't push you. We don't push bad guys. We only push secular democracies.
All right, well, I'm generally against apartheid, genocide, and oppression, so I would not be in favor of Israel being just so blatantly like, let's just fucking kill them all.
Well, neither would I, but I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Nobody scolds Putin. We know what Putin does. We know he doesn't give a fuck, so we don't bother.
Putin, just not many people in his own country, because you know what happens to them.
Right.
But the main thing is that Israel has to be the one that's willing to sit down for the very least ceasefire. Because Israel is the one that has the real power.
Yeah, but Israel isn't the one attacking the other country.
No, both of them are attacking each other back and forth quite a lot.
In your opinion, maybe
this is wrong.
terrorists
This is just
are
categorically
attacking
wrong.
Israel.
For the past 20 years, for the past 20 years, it's been Hamas launching first. In 2020, Hamas launched first. What did the IDF do? Just do a tit for tat on those few missile silos, and that was it. 2019, the same thing. 2017, 2016, 2014, so on, right? It's always Hamas striking first, and IDF, of course, intercepting those fucking rockets, and then doing a quick strike on those targets, and that's it. Never escalates beyond that.
Okay. So.
It always follows in
Israel
sequence. Israel doesn't just randomly fire rockets into Gaza. Gaza does randomly fire rockets into Israel.
That's true. Yes, Israel has the means to do coordinated tactical strikes, whereas the Palestinians...
No, Palestinians, Hamas. Palestinians aren't the problem, it's Hamas.
Hamas, yeah. Hamas, for the most part, just wants to inflict pain and suffering on Israel.
Not just that, they would commit the next Holocaust if they had the chance.
I mean, Hamas, yeah, probably. Probably they would. Which is why I don't like Hamas. Well, one of the many reasons why I don't like Hamas. But the main thing is that Israel has the defense system, Israel has the military industrial complex that supports it, the support of the United States. They have if Israel decided to, they could annihilate.
So what's this? So just take it on the chin?
No.
Then what?
Not exactly that. The thing is, there's no... The way it's going now ends with only death and most likely the extermination of the Palestinians. What needs to happen is some sort of dialogue, some sort of ceasefire, and some sort of diplomacy.
If Hamas is if the IDF are undertaking Hamas, why would all the Palestinians be fucking eradicated?
70% of the victims are women and children.
By Hamas, yes.
No, by Israel.
No, incorrect.
In Gaza,
the
IDF
only target Hamas. Fact.
Right.
The Israeli government also spends billions per year in humanitarian and economic relief.
I don't care, bro. You realize, listen, Jews are very smart, so I'm surprised how, if they're only targeting Hamas, they're getting 70% fucking women.
Well, this doesn't exist. This statistic doesn't exist. And two,
we would need to cite that.
Yet genocide, by definition,
look it up
is about systematically targeting a group based on ethnicity, faith, all that fun stuff, right?
Right.
It's not so. They're literally sending humanitarian aid.
Right, by shooting them.
The problem with Hamas, they say there's a medicine shortage in Palestine, but the problem is Hamas never has a rocket shortage. How are they getting the rocket? Who's giving it?
Yeah, I don't disagree. Hamas was actually...
Aren't they getting funded by Saudi Arabia?
You look at... No.
No, Saudi Arabia is against Hamas.
Bro,
Saudi Arabia stands for Saudi Arabia. They do what they want.
Saudi Arabia sucks American dick and gets sucked by America and Israel. So.
Most likely, it's coming from Iran and Iran's proxy Shia militias.
We know it's coming from Russia, China, Iran, and
it's not coming from Russia and China. What the
yes,
fuck?
it is.
China is funding Hamas. Why the fuck?
Russia also helps
the
Taliban.
Okay, I don't see why. I don't think it's very consistent with
destabilizing
China's current.
China and Russia.
Since when does Russia support Palestine?
But China does it through economic means most.
China, bro,
that's their focus.
Here's an important thing to understand: is that nations, believe it or not, sometimes your nation will be funding more than one terrorist group, and sometimes your nation, those terrorist groups are not.
I mean, hey man, I'm from America. We fund terrorist groups all the fucking time.
Every superpower and every regional power in the region,
including
the
Kurds,
world,
they're terrorists.
Are engaging in extra legal armament of militia groups, and until we stop. The world stops violating international law in this way, this conflict isn't going to end. If we don't like a government, then we fund terrorists that fight against them. Every regional superpower does it.
Sorry, I wasn't saying what to you. I was saying what to something I was just sent.
Wait, what?
So, and the Russian and Chinese arms go through one or two other nation states and clearinghouses. Have you ever seen the movie Lord of War? I mean, that's really how they do it.
It's a good a good movie, but the countries can do it almost outright. I mean, a good example recently is with Russia funding the Taliban and the bounties and so forth. Right? They use criminal organizations in Afghanistan. But
we did too.
It's not through. It's no.
Yeah, we did.
The Americans worked with moderates, known as the Mujahideen at the time. They then had an internal conflict, a civil war, and the Americans met back up with those moderates they helped after 9/11. The same people.
I'm talking about in the Reagan era. I'm talking about in the Reagan era. We gave the Mujahideen anti-aircraft.
Those were moderates. The Mujahideen. The Americans met up with those very same people. They established contacts with them after 9/11. That became the Northern Alliance when they had that civil war conflict, and then you got Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. The Americans met back up with them. They're not the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, but they met up with them.
Well, the Northern Alliance was not exactly a secular,
They were heavily fucking moderate.
Are you justifying the United States not endorsement, but support of some of these groups?
The Mujahideen are moderates, my guy.
Well, I'm
all
just
the
saying
declassified record confirms.
We would give zero fucks about them if they weren't fighting the Soviets.
I'm just saying this. If we are arming extra-national groups and we are not using diplomacy, then we're playing a different game. If we like to play that game and we want to continue playing this game, then we can just keep doing what we're doing.
The facts are that Israel has the right.
It's a shame that if I hold the same opinions in the West, I'm considered a radical.
Yeah, Israel, getting back to it, Israel has tried negotiations, especially the most recent, I think was back in 05, 06, 04-ish, with the disengagement of Gaza. But Hamas, because they're a terrorist organization, they don't give a fuck. They'll keep violating shit. And they are getting back to it, they're getting supported by Russia, I think it was China, Syria, and definitely Iran.
Just because they're a terrorist organization doesn't mean they violate agreements.
You know what I love the Dave
Like,
into
outside that,
negotiations thing. That's my favorite thing, though. It's like,
what was it,
yeah, let's
esoteric?
enter negotiations. Here's my offer. We get everything, you get
Wait, what
nothing,
was
and
it,
fuck
esoteric?
you. It's like, that sounds like a bad deal. It's
sorry.
like, oh, you don't want to negotiate.
I
Oh
didn't hear.
no.
Continue back up.
So, like, the entire thing is, like, for example, Al Qaeda was true to some of their promises. It really depends on whether there's a change in leadership, but if there isn't,
Oh yeah,
like, a
yeah.
lot
I mean,
of the
obviously,
times
it's a group. It's very group. Yeah, it depends on its leadership making that choice. Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But when I say that a group, I mean collectively its leadership and like its choices in that regard.
I think the problem with Hamas is that the reason why you can't really negotiate is because there's just not enough leverage that they have that they can actually negotiate with. So they kind of get fucked.
That's true.
Hamas and also separate, the Palestinians as a whole don't have leverage. They don't have political leverage.
The problem is, again, if they negotiate a reasonable outcome, then Hamas's business model collapses. Hamas
Dude, Hamas
needs the
doesn't
chaos.
care about the business
Hamas
model.
wants the chaos. They're promoting
I
the
mean,
chaos.
what makes you say that though? Like, surely you have to think if they
There's
are,
the guy
even if you think
who
they're a
denies-
terrorist group, even
there's
if
the
you
guy
think
who
they're a
denies
terrorist,
the Holocaust.
even if you think this is dude, I'm not bringing up how you think you're the one guy on the internet who think Jeffrey Epstein actually killed himself. Okay, don't bring up this other
Just so
unrelated
everyone
stuff.
knows,
No,
this
no,
guy
no.
thinks
We're
the
not talking
Holocaust
about
didn't
that. Well,
happen.
yeah, you think Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, but
What does
anyway, like,
Epstein have to do with anything?
what does the
Let's stay on
Holocaust have to
topic.
do with anything? Yeah, exactly. That's
Dude,
what I'm
you
saying.
deny
Let's
the
stay on topic.
Holocaust.
Yeah,
Stay on the
dude,
topic.
this is irrelevant, Nick. This is
I thought
derailing.
Holocaust denial was banned on this server.
Apparently, it's not. Yeah, so, but
Oh.
anyway, we're not talking about that right now, Mike. We're talking about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And the
Yeah,
thing
but
is,
you're
even if you
anti-Semite through and
think
through.
these people are terrorists, I'm certainly not defending them. It's against the sub rules apparently to defend them because they're labeled as a terrorist
Well, you
organization.
defended
So
them the other day.
Well, I won't do it. It's against sub rules.
No, you can defend that. Like, you can defend some things. You just can't justify them.
Well, I'm
Here's
not.
yours.
I'm gonna err on the side of caution and say that I'm not defending them. But
See
I
what
am
I
gonna
mean,
say, even if you
esoteric?
think people are a terrorist group, surely you have to understand that they want some sort of political goal. Even if to achieve those goals, they're
Yeah,
using
they want the next
terrorism. They don't just want the terror. They don't just want the chaos. They want something, and they're using that to get it. So it's not fair to cast them as like, oh, they just do this for the sake of it. No, I mean, by that definition, they wouldn't be terrorists,
The
right?
Hamas
if
want
they
the
just
next
did it to
Holocaust.
do it.
Yeah. That's their agenda, is the Holocaust.
Yep. 2.0.
Implying
So Hamas has to go. That's the bottom line. Hamas is shit. It has to
No,
go.
I'm sorry. Well, but here's the thing: Israel. Here's an idea. Israel could cut away all support for them by just no longer bombing the Palestinian people. Then, like,
They
that
don't
people
bomb
would
the
no longer have a
Palestinian
reason
people.
to.
I'll tell you what.
They would no longer have a reason to support these people.
I'll tell you
They
what.
bomb,
Hamas can
they
start
bomb
first.
Hamas, not the
They bomb
Palestinian people.
Oh, not the Palestinian people. They don't murder Palestinians.
How about Hamas start first? Hamas can stop doing this and then gain some diplomatic credit.
How about the people with the boot on their neck and no other option start first, and the big, powerful, oppressive state
There was
murdering
no boot on the
civilians
neck.
like
What the fuck?
react? I mean, get real.
Gaza
bro. Get
isn't
real.
occupied. Gaza is occupied by Hamas, sure, but
Oh,
the
also,
Israelis
also
wouldn't do
little
that.
kids murdered by the Israelis. She was Hamas, right? Like this little girl killed in the Gaza
There
Strip. She
is
was
a boot
Hamas, right?
How about we go one at a time?
Yeah, there is a boot on Palestine's
Yeah,
neck.
one
and
at a
There's no
time.
point
Actually,
having
I
a
think it's fine,
conversation
good
with an
idea.
anti-Semite who literally thinks the Holocaust didn't happen in the first place.
Well, let's not attack the man. Let's attack the
Well,
argument.
we can do both. I mean, if you deny the Holocaust, it doesn't reflect poorly on your reasoning skills.
I mean, if you think if Jeffrey Epstein actually killed himself, I'd say this reflects
Despite
pretty
the
poorly on
autopsy
your.
evidence.
What the fuck does
This is a
Epstein have to
derail.
do with this?
I'm just
You
saying,
think
Mike is the one
you
guy on
think
the
Lee
internet who thinks
Harvey
that.
Oswald shot John F.
No,
Kennedy?
Lee
And what the hell does it have to do with the conversation?
Well, I mean, we could actually trace that back through Mossad, same way as Jeffrey Epstein. We could trace it back through Mossad to Israel.
Everything
So
is
it's
Mossad's
tangentially
fault.
related, I guess.
Guys,
But
why don't you accept the fact the Holocaust happened? What's your
are we
biggest
talking
evidence
about
it
are we
didn't?
talking about the Holocaust, or are we talking
Yeah, go for
about? No, we're not. We're
Yeah, go
talking
for it.
about the. Well, dude, so Mike actually can't defend
Let's do it.
Israel, so he wants to pivot to the Holocaust.
Okay.
We're not talking about the Holocaust,
I've
Mike,
done this
or
fight, I've been
Epstein.
doing
I
this for the
brought that
past
up to
3
make fun
days.
of you. We're talking about Israeli-Palestine
Yeah,
conflict.
Yeah, let's
why don't you
let's
think
leave the
Holocaust
Holocaust
happened?
third rail.
No one wants to do that. We want to stay on topic.
So you don't want to defend?
Can I have a chance to speak at some point?
Yeah, let this gentleman speak.
Yeah.
All right. So the main fucking issue, as I've said before, is that Israel has all the fucking power. They could obliterate
Is that why they disengaged in
Palestine
Gaza
if
in
it
2005?
weren't a fucking if it
Mark.
weren't a huge international PR disaster.
So EMB, is that why with all that power they disengaged from Gaza in 2005, literally bringing back thousands, many thousands,
16 years ago?
yeah, many thousands of
Jeez, I'm
Israelis
so old.
that had already established lives there, schools, hospitals.
But yet have
all
also
of
still
them.
been encroaching
No, they haven't.
with
No,
settlement.
definitely not. Those are illegal.
Yes, they
nope,
have.
Under Israeli law, they're illegal. So
What the
EMB.
fuck are you talking about?
Please.
Maybe you should be familiarize yourself with their domestic law. So, despite having all that military power, quote unquote, they disengaged in 2005. Everyone packed up and left. All their livelihoods. But according to you, the Palestinians don't have any bargaining power, right? Yet the Israelis did that.
Wait, what did Israel do?
They pulled out of Gaza and gave it back.
Disengagement from Gaza, 2005.
Yeah, the Israeli government
I love this. Like,
the Israeli
they
government literally
consolidated.
forced their own citizens
So are you
out
saying
of Gaza at gunpoint.
Yeah, but why didn't they do it harder? Is what Mike is
They
saying.
did.
Why didn't they?
They laid siege. They literally laid siege to people who were refusing to move. The Israeli government wasn't fucking around. They said, this belongs to the Palestinians, get out.
Yep. Like EMB, I'll give you like a link on this, right? Like it's well established, and the livelihoods, mosques, sorry, not mosques, fucking synagogues.
The fundamental power differential doesn't change no
Yeah,
matter
so
what.
here
you
Israel
say
had
here.
a massive power difference, and they got cut.
But let me present a different perspective on this argument. Is Israel played the game? They said, all right, international law, we'll give you Gaza, we're going to do the right thing, and look what they got for it. They got a missile launch pad right next door to them. That's the thanks they get. Israel's not going to fall for that shit again.
Oh, dude,
They're
fuck off. Why do you think they had that?
international.
Hamas
Dude,
took
why do you
over
think
the
they have that? They have
Palestinian
that in order to
Authority,
defend
Levi.
themselves against a hostile neighbor. What
No,
weapons does
the
Israel have along its
Palestinian
border?
Authority was subdued from power by Hamas. They illegally took over the Palestinian Authority. The Israelis did negotiations with the Palestinian Authority in 2007.
So what's your point?
They disengaged in 2005. Hamas then seized control and take control away from the Palestinian Authority, and then they've had free reign to use Gaza as a fucking rocket site against Israel ever since.
What's your point?
The point is Israel's not going to fall for that shit again.
No, even that aside, right? The other dude's point was, well, the the Israelis have all the power. They're the real dominating power, right? However, despite having all the power, they got cuffed in 2005 and simply packed up and left Gaza.
Dude, they didn't just simply pack up and leave. They fucking displaced these people from their homes. They rule over these people. They deny these people vaccines during a global pandemic. They didn't just
Right? And they've got no negotiating power. Sure, Israel still fucking left, which shows Israel is a good faith fucking actor when it comes to negotiations, despite holding all the cards.
That is
And
such
yet,
a load of shit.
That was like roughly the last like you said, I asked you earlier, when was the last time Israel sat down for ceasefire talk?
They keep offering.
To negotiate.
They keep offering.
You know what? If Israel was in good faith, here's something they could do: give the Palestinian people right of return, and give the Palestinian people in Israel equal rights to Jews. Literally do that if you're so good faith. Oh fuck off, Mike. We've been here before. They don't. We've given you a list of rights they don't have.
No, they literally have all the same rights apart from.
Oh, okay. So can they go visit their family in Gaza and then come back to Israel?
Yep.
Oh, so you're just lying. So you're going to try to have a conversation with the guy who just lies.
This says the guy who denies the Holocaust.
Yeah, but it's Mike. You are lying about this conversation we're having now.
No, they literally can. There's nothing preventing them from doing so.
Yeah.
If
we're really going to dispute this point, then we should cite sources, because this is probably an important point.
This is such a crazy claim. I mean, I have like if you're going to claim Israel has given right of return to the Palestinian people, I don't know what to tell you.
Palestinians go back and forth between Palestine and Israel all the time ago.
So
Gaza between Gaza?
They should go through all the time.
I mean, these are lies.
How do we solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
Easy. We fucking systematically murder Hamas.
Yeah, by that you also mean, like, Mike, you have to understand, when they bomb a tenement block, because they think there might be 3 Hamas people there, that's, according to Mike, like, just killing Hamas and not killing civilians.
Nope, they've never deliberately targeted civilians.
Not killing Hamas.
Yeah, I told you that you claimed then, they targeted Hamas, they left a flyer in the middle of the night saying, hey, we're going to bomb your entire home.
Incorrect. So when they do leaflet drops cover entire cities, then they also do mass text messaging and phone calls into specific buildings that are affected by an airstrike. And then they'll do a roof knock, a submunition that's non-explosive, that'll basically shake and make a loud noise on the roof of the target building, right?
So, Mike, how are they able to kill any Hamas members while they do this shit? Like, can't Hamas move?
What? They've fucked up several fucking Hamas.
But how? Like, doesn't Hamas just know? They say, oh no, they're going to bomb our terrorist organization. They're going to...
In the past engagement. And in 2014, they also did a fantastic job, resulting in very few civcos because of their effective means at avoiding them.
So wait, but how come Hamas doesn't just know? So how come Hamas doesn't just know where Israel's going to bomb and like move their base of operations every time Israel gives everyone advance warning about where they're going to bomb? Like, how are any Hamas guys getting killed at all?
Yeah, that's a good point. Because they would get access to the messages as well, wouldn't they?
Because Israel did it once, like 5 years ago, before they fucking bombed.
Oh no, they do it all the time.
Yeah, so how are any Hamas members getting
all the
killed?
sources that confirm it. It's a matter of their.
Yeah, but how are any Hamas guys getting killed?
The past
if that's the
20 or
case.
so years. On top of that, that's the risk they take when they give it advance.
That doesn't
warning,
make sense, Mark.
They do take
Mark.
that risk. Again, there's that 2009 case where they did a phone call to the building that they were actually targeting instead of the civilian they were trying to warn next door, and they sadly got the civilian next door, right? Accidents do happen, but they do play
Wait.
And
You said before that
is
oh my God.
University of Pennsylvania paper, peer-reviewed by two towards leading experts in international law. They were embedded with the IDF for a bit and talked to their lawyers and so forth. And it's a fantastic paper that details everything about targeting ground, air force, navy. You fucking name it. It's good shit.
So Mike, you said, oh my God. Mike,
give him a chance to revise.
you've said before that Hamas works out of like you claim they work out of residential or civilian or hospitals and stuff like that. So by definition, like Israel has to be also warning Hamas bases of operations if Hamas is working out of a hospital. Israel also warns the hospital. So you're talking about them. You're talking about them warning Hamas-based operations by accident, but by definition, they must be Balamese-based operations.
That's the
And
risk
by the
they
way,
take. It's a
Mike, that's not an
risk.
answer. Mike, that's not
It's
an
a
answer to the question.
risk.
If I say, how the fuck do they kill any of these
It's a
guys if they're telling
risk.
if I'm sorry, guys. I can't engage with some of these bad faces, Mike. I don't think anyone's really convinced by Mike anyway. His arguments are so bad. He doesn't defend any of his points.
Guys, calm the fuck down. All right.
You gotta take turns.
Yeah, sounds like a big coat from the anti-Semite who denies the Holocaust.
All right, so here's the thing, though. You're saying that the entirety of Hamas's operation stems from hospital and school basements or weird rooms?
No, never said.
Well, no, I know that's not what you're saying, but see, the point I'm trying to make here
So
is
here's
that there
one.
are other targets you can fucking
Here's one
go after.
in Israel via Palestine, a tunnel entrance, right, that Hamas use to target strikes in Israel, right? And as you can see, it's right next to a kindergarten and a mosque, right? 59 meters, sorry, feet, but 29 meters from the kindergarten and 60 meters from the mosque. So they do put a lot of them in quite close proximity. They're not in the same building all the time or like directly adjacent. They can be quite a distance, like 60 meters away, for example. And that's how they.
And when you're dealing with striking something in such proximity,
So when you're doing this, so look at this example here, right? IDF will not carp along this whole area, right? Because that's risky, right? So here, right?
Sure.
So let's go with that
but
picture.
also
Stop.
allows you to pay
Time, please.
Stop. Yeah. So ground raids do have that benefit of gaining intelligence, but sometimes there is no intelligence to be gained, or that's the risk you run, right? So here in this example, so if you just open it up so it dominates the screen, if I'm targeting that tunnel entrance, and we hit some buildings next to it, obviously, and of course you've got that kindergarten, the mosque, that distance away from it. If I'm the IDF commander, I've got this tunnel entrance on a fixed list, right, of military targets, right? Fantastic. It goes through the legal review, the CDE review, the collateral damage estimate, right? All these checks in-house about the approval list for targeting. Then the targeteers get the package. So they'll go, okay, well, since that's quite a close proximity to a kindergarten and a mosque and some other buildings there, we're going to say a small diameter bomb, right? So it's a low yield bomb. We'll delay its fuse so that it impacts, buries itself for a little bit, and detonates to reduce shrapnel damage already. You do that. You might want to do a strike at a certain time of the day that has less people walking along that path there between the mosque and the tunnel entrance and so forth. So 3 o'clock or at night.
Nighttime when the kindergarten should be
closed,
pretty much empty, and the mosque should be relatively empty. Yeah, no, I get what you're getting at.
Yeah, you hit it. All beans. Yeah, it's right next to a mosque in the kindergarten, but you've done every measure to make sure that you're mitigating the chance of civcads in the area, and to the very close, like right next to each other, the buildings, right? The black buildings, like right next to it. That's Oakley Dokley. That's under international law, domestic law for the Israelis. That's okay. The Americans do the same thing. Everyone does the same thing for Western countries.
I just.
What's the problem?
I don't believe that the IDF or like even Americans and stuff like that operate under this strict.
They do. I can go through numerous declassified examples
all
with
the time.
Americans all the time. I can go through numerous airstrikes, CIVCAS 15-6 reviews that have been declassified. I've got several on the way for my own requests. There was this case in what were you? There was a case. Sorry, go on. I'll find it.
I do have a question. Would you be willing, like, not with Hamas necessarily, but since Hamas is the main, I guess, militant arm against Israel on behalf of Palestine, I guess. But would you be comfortable with peace talks and possibly one or two state settlement?
I'm fine with either or. One state where it's Israel bringing Palestine into the fold under their own, or two state. Someone recently suggested to me, and I quite agree with it, that like with the DMZ between South and North Korea, establishing mini DMZ between the two here.
I mean, that's not ideal, but it's better than open conflict.
Yeah, not like it's like a fucking straight line of fucking mines, but
well, yeah,
it's like
it's not as clear cut.
Yeah, it's like a column of like UN peacekeepers and some like air defense for both sides and stuff like that, just in the middle. Yeah, and a garrison of UN peacekeeper troops, even the Americans, but to say for simplicity, UN peacekeeper troops there.
Yeah, so I think this discussion, like, I mean, a lot of this discussion has been justifying each side's behaviors, whereas what we really should be moving towards is some sort of amelioration, some sort of peace. And even though Hamas is fucking gonna be Hamas,
you're referring to more of a justed bellum discussion, which is like how casualties break out, right? Whereas the conversation has been more as Justin Beller, which is like the
thing is, Hamas will have significantly less support if tensions ease and conflicts slows down.
Well, Hamas don't even enjoy fucking wide support in
I'm pretty sure they don't have the majority of the Palestinian people on their side. No.
Yeah.
Well, Hamas. I mean, it depends if you count their legislative. If you count their legislative assembly as being correct, then they do, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I'm talking more about the people, like all of the Palestinians, and I have the feeling most of them just.
What do you mean, like the ones outside of fucking Israel, like the Jordans?
Oh,
no,
I'm talking about the Palestinians on the West Bank and Gaza.
In Palestine.
In Palestine, they want they want peace, just like Israel wants peace. I'm pretty sure both sides want, the majority of the people want an end to the conflict. They just don't know how to get there because they're so neck deep in this shit.
Again, like recent in the past barrage from Hamas to Israel, like 300 or so fucking rockets didn't even land in Israel. They landed short and fucking killed a lot.
Well, also the Iron Shield, which, by the way, like, God, that thing is so cool. That system is so cool. I mean, it's I'm a fan of defensive military systems. I think that's pretty fucking cool.
It is amazing. It's an amazing technological feat.
It's not 100% effective, but damn, it is amazing.
Basically
but also,
shooting bullets out of the
or
air.
The Iron Dome is what it is.
And technologically speaking, they're basically shooting bullets out of the air. That's.
Yeah. So, like, yeah. My main issue is that, like, Palestine doesn't have an Iron Dome, so the amount of force that can be thrown against Palestine is disproportionate. Can be thrown. But I think overall, what needs to be done is, like, the only way this can end is some sort of first ceasefire and sitting down at a table and figuring out what the fuck is going to happen with the situation, or one of these two parties are going to be exterminated. And currently it seems very much like the Palestinians are going to be. Not that I would advocate for either way. I think genocide, extermination, apartheid, or just overall just subjugation, or like any of that is bad. But trying to go back and forth saying who's justified in their attacks on each other doesn't seem to actually do anything. It's just a tit for tat.
Well, obviously, I was just tracking the record on several claims of like mock war crimes and shit like that.
Yeah, and like I understand where you're coming from with like under international, like, you know, martial law, not martial law. That's the wrong term, but like
law of armed conflict.
Law for armed conflict. Yeah. Like technically it's justified, but also at the same time it does not improve the situation, really.
Well, obviously.
Because for every time you hit Israel hits a Hamas target, and Hamas is like being like, let's say that Hamas was in that news tower and apartment like thing. Let's say that they were. It's a smart move because it just makes it look bad. And then it just perpetuates the conflict. It gets sympathy on this side and then sympathy on that side. It's a giant shit show, and unfortunately Israel, being the big daddy in the region, has to be the one to really go for sitting at the table. They really have to do that, like, because Palestine doesn't have chips.
They rarely warn them of missile strikes, actually. And
That's incorrect.
Cited, but,
no, they cite.
Nah, bro. Here's the thing. If you are referring to the Arabic language and stuff like that, then I guess not, because Nur basically describes what angels are made out from, man. We don't have any Holy Spirit in our religion, man. Everybody knows that.
I think a lot of Sufis would disagree with that. Here's from the Wikipedia. It says Nur may refer to light abroad, or Nur is Arabic for heatless light, and has been passed on in many other languages.
Yes, Nur means. No, this is another conversation. This is another.
Enlightened Muslims like him describe it as like something similar to the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, of course. Nur is a light. Nur is light. So basically, Nur means light, right? And angels are made out from light. So, yeah.
Okay. So it says here, Shias believe that Nur, in the inner sense of esoteric meaning, is inherited through the Imams who communicated to people.
Nur's referring to as angel.
In the sense that God illuminates the world with understanding. I'm just reading the wiki article, and I've heard Muslims use the term Nur in a very similar way with the Holy Spirit.
No, the Holy Spirit is something that
a light from God that illuminates
DJ,
Yeah, no, Shaki, they believe in Tawhid, alright? They're not going to have a similar concept to what Christians believe, because we believe in a triune God. Their main doctrine of Tawhid will completely remove this, and they would come to a point that they'd be committing shirk.
We were slaves and shit, nigga.
Bruh, name one fucking African country.
Haiti.
Niger.
He said Haiti. He said Haiti.
Haiti's Haiti. That's not even near Africa.
We were talking about
Actually,
you can look
that's
it up.
down by like Cuba.
Haiti is
Yeah, I'm bad,
Get
but
back to what we were talking
No, it's not.
nah, I'm not gonna stop until he fucking name African country for me. Holy shit.
Haiti.
Niger's an African country.
Haiti. Look it up. Haiti.
Oh my god. Hades in the fucking.
Yeah, what about Niger?
Haiti is filled with
Niger?
niggers,
Yeah.
It's
Haiti is
Niger.
filled
It's
with
not Niger.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah,
they
it's in
know about it?
Africa.
Actually, if you look it up, Haiti is in Africa.
Well, let me guess. You had to look that up.
No, I know. They speak French there.
Actually, if you look it up, if Haiti wasn't in Africa, why is it run by niggers?
Libya, Egypt.
Those are in North Africa. Yes, those are African countries.
Those are Africa.
Define
A lot of them still have
nigger
illegal
countries.
slavery, as far as I'm concerned.
But they're not nigger countries, so
Yeah, but define nigger. Like, what does that mean?
basically Afro.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम हुकूमत को ये बावर करवाना चाहते हैं कि आपने जो जुल्म का बाजार गर्म किया हुआ है इसको बंद किया जाए जल्द अज जल्द इन चीज़ों को रोका जाए मुज़ाकरात की तरफ आएँ खान साहब आप कहते हैं कि 20 साल आप इस बात को कहते रहे दुनिया को बताते रहे कि अफगानिस्तान के अमन का हाल सिर्फ मुज़ाकरात की तरफ है आज वही हमारा वज़ीर आज़म जुल्म का बाजार क्यों गर्म करके बैठा हुआ है क्या अपने वो वज़रा को लगाम नहीं दे सकता हमारा वो वज़ीर आज़म कहां पर है कि जो इंसानियत और अमन का पैगाम देता है हमें उस वजीर आजम की जरूरत है कि जिसके ऊपर जब इंडिया ने मुल्क की सालमियत पे हमला किया दुश्मन खुलेआम आके हमला करके यहां से वापस जाना चाहता था लेकिन उसके नापाक इरादों को हमारी पाक फौज ने बड़े अच्छे आसान तरीके के साथ जो है वो हैंडल किया और फिर आपने उसे चाय पिला के वापस भेज दिया अमन का पैगाम देने के लिए आज हमारा वो अमन का पैगाम देने वाला वजीर आजम किधर है अगर लब्बैक वाले गलत हैं आपके कहने के मुताबिक वो टेररिस्ट हैं तो फिर क्या आप इस तरह अपनी आवाम के साथ सलूक करेंगे आपने कह दिया कि वो टेररिस्ट हैं तो वो टेररिस्ट हो गए क्या प्रूफ दिए गए आज वो टीएलपी के जो तीसरी बड़ी सियासी जमात है तीसरी बड़ी सियासी कुव्वत है इस मुल्क के अंदर 2 दिन के अंदर अंदर आपने उनको टेररिस्ट बना दिया और उन्होंने क्या टेररिज्म की है एक मुआहिदा के जो आपने खुद किया एक एग्रीमेंट के जो आपके वजीरों ने खुद किया आज उनकी इतनी हिम्मत है कि वो टीवी पे आके ये बकवासात करते जा रहे हैं हमारी आपसे गुजारिश है हुकूमत वक्त से गुजारिश है और हमारी टीएलपी के जो तमाम रहनुमा है उनसे गुजारिश है कि खुदारा टेबल पर आके एक दूसरे से बात करके ये जो आवाम दोनों तरफ मारी जा रही है आवाम दोनों तरफ पिसती जा रही है आवाम दोनों तरफ खराब हो रही है बराए मेहरबानी इस जुल्म के बाजार को बंद किया जाए हमें उस वजीर आजम की जरूरत है कि जो इंसानियत का नाम लेता है इंसानियत का अलमबरदार है जो जाके इश्क रसूल की बात करता है तो इन आशिकों को आप सरेआम इसी तरह मारेंगे ये आपका इश्क है ये इश्क रसूल बताता है बराए मेहरबानी फौरी तौर पे जो है इस चीज का हल निकाला जाए अमन की तरफ आया जाए और इन जो बैठे एहतजाज कर रहे हैं जो बेगुनाह हैं इन बेगुनाहों को इस तरीके के साथ मारना आप वो जो अवाम जो न्यूट्रल आपके बारे में ज़हन रखते थे आपने उन अवाम के दिलों के ऊपर छुरियां चला दी हैं वजीर आजम साहब इंतहाई आपकी कैबिना ने नाअहली का सबूत देते हुए छुरियां चलाई हैं हमारे दिलों के ऊपर और बराए मेहरबानी फौरी तौर पे इसको अमन की तरफ लेकर आए खुदारा अमन की तरफ लेकर आए बराए मेहरबानी इसको अमन की तरफ लेकर आए